Hey everyone, Kay from Legacy of Lore here. Today's video is going to be a bit different. Representation of minorities is a very touchy, controversial subject. We live in an extremely diverse world with 195 countries, roughly 6,500 spoken languages, and 4,200 religions worldwide. Depending on what you believe, there are 3, 4, or dozens of races, and there are between 2 and dozens of genders. Historically speaking, in popular Western media, the majority of protagonists are white and or male. Now, before you go off on me, there is nothing wrong with having a white male protagonist. I think, however, we can all agree that representation and diversification of creative works is important to provide a broader set of audiences with characters they can relate to, culturally and in terms of life experiences, beyond the many other things that tie us together as humans. Diversification and broadening also provides us with new stories, new cultural perspectives, new traditions, new experiences, and new myths to explore. This is especially important in a world where it seems that we may be running out of original ideas. The problem comes in when you consider how this is done, especially in the modern era. Particularly in films, studios are all too often guilty of this. Instead of focusing on building a relatable, likable, complex character with an enjoyable and coherent story, studios have focused on the fact that a character has a certain trait. And that's it. That's enough, right? Wrong. You see, it's not enough to have a character who nominally has a trait or traits that a specific audience can relate to. A label is not enough. The character needs to be relatable. This is part of why audience members have a problem with simply taking an established male character and making him a female, or taking a character that is traditionally white and making them a person of color. If you cannot explain why this change was made and how it improves the story other than scoring social justice points, then you have not made a compelling character. The best characters are those who have an identity that is not directly presented as their reason for existing, but rather built up through the subtler arts of storytelling. The best stories do not ostracize certain groups of people. If you need to break down a certain group of people to uplift another, then you do not understand what makes the group you are trying to represent special or unique or amazing. As one of my favorite YouTubers said, and I am paraphrasing CinemaWins, check him out for some regular film feel good if you haven't yet, link in the description. Audiences cannot necessarily relate better to the alien god of thunder or the rich playboy philanthropist than they do to the superpowered king of Wakanda just because the former have pink skin. Just because your protagonist is female, or a person of color, or gay, does not make them automatically likable. So for today's video, we're going to briefly look at some films or series that did representation badly, and then look at films that I thought did representation wonderfully, to try and provide a bit more insight on the topic. I'll start off with series and films that did representation badly, so we can end on a high note. First off, the CW's Batwoman trailer. I was interested and curious about the series up to the point in the trailer where Kate is told that the Batman suit is literal perfection, and her response is,
"It will be, when it fits a woman."
This is where I realized what type of message this trailer was sending. My negative impression was reinforced with quotes like,
"You're a female Bruce Wayne,"
which is all too true. It's like a garish coat of paint on a familiar character. And
I'm not about to let a man take credit for a woman's work.
she is literally wearing Batman's suit, doing what he used to do, in the same way that he used to do it, and she is offended that people mistake her for Batman. I will definitely give the series a chance once it comes out, but currently the issue I have is that in this trailer, Batwoman is not portrayed as her own character. She's portrayed as nothing more than a reskin of an existing male character, Batman. Not only that, but the trailer goes out of its way to shove it in the audience's face that she's a woman, she's a lesbian. These are perfectly fine traits, but when these are the only traits that your character has, there is a problem. Next, Captain Marvel. Some of the main driving forces of this film are that Carol is consistently accused of being too emotional by certain characters, and that she has experienced gender inequality throughout her life, especially in the Air Force. These are both important aspects to gender bias, and it would not have felt nearly as forced had the politics of this film not, unfortunately, been compounded by Marvel's choice in actress and release date. On top of that, the film was disappointing as one of the tied-over films between Infinity War and Endgame, a role which garnered more tension than usual and placed high expectations on it from the start. On a brief tangent, I did not perceive Carol as struggling with her emotions throughout the film at all. Yes, it is clear that she suppresses her emotions, but at no point in the film did I get the impression that she is struggling to do so, and that her emotions are actually overwhelming her. She does perhaps show a lack of impulse control in her tendency to fall back on her power blasts when she is losing at hand-to-hand training. Training which she rudely woke her senior officer up for. And the last example of a film that did representation poorly, a small part of Avengers Endgame. Yes, the scene in Endgame where all our female heroes team up to get the gauntlet across the battlefield is absolutely awesome. But it fell flat for me. Why? It felt forced. There is no logical reason for all our female heroes to show up at the same spot at that time with no backup from any of the other male heroes. Within the story, I found it out of place that they took the time out of this enormous, epic battle to effectively stand still for a group shot. I'm not even going to touch on 2004's Catwoman because, let's face it, what is there to say about an over-sexualized female superhero fighting evil moisturizer in a terrible movie? Now, a film that did representation right. Wonder Woman. In this film, it is not shoved in the audience's face that Diana is a woman. Yes, she is a woman and she undergoes struggles that all women of the time, and even sometimes in modern times, face. She is discriminated against and looked down upon solely because she is a woman. These issues are not shied away from, and her being a woman plays a role in the story and in her character building. But it is not the only trait that she has. She is curious, strong-willed, kind, intelligent, and has a strong sense of right and wrong. She also has flaws, and we see a very human and relatable side to her as these flaws are revealed, in her uncertainty and in her grief. She is not a man in a woman's body, and she is not portrayed as having only one trait. She is a likable character with relatable struggles who happens to be a woman. Of course, this film plays with the reversal of roles as well. She also saves men, and it does not feel out of place because it has been established that she is super, with more than just human strength and abilities. This is how you write a strong female character. And lastly, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Miles Morales is done superbly. Miles comes from a mixed cultural heritage, which is lived, not just told. We can see his heritage in his family life, in his parents, in the way he acts with his friends, in the way he interacts with his uncle. We are never explicitly told that he has a mixed heritage. We are never explicitly told that his mother has X heritage and his father has Y heritage. It's shown. It makes up part of his character. He lives it. But it is not artificially brought to the forefront of the story. It simply is. He is a likable character, a goofy teen who is struggling to fit in. Partly we can assume because of his mixed background, but also because he's a teenager and in a new school. His cultural background has nothing and everything to do with his character. It is not his only character trait, but it influences many other characteristics that he has. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the other characters in this film, but all of them. The female Doc Ock, Olivia Octavius, the depressed middle-aged superhero Peter B. Parker, the female Spider-Woman Gwen Stacy, the man who comes from a world where color doesn't exist, Noir Peter Parker, the anthropomorphized cartoon pig Peter Porker, and the anime stylized mech driver Penny Parker are all well characterized given their limited screen time and respected. Even Aunt May, despite not having superpowers, is a powerful, admirable character in her own right. And that is how you normalize diversity. Not by waving it like a flag or jotting it down on a scoreboard, but making it, well, normal. So often studios and or writers elect to diversify their characters without putting any thought into what these traits add to the story, how it would influence the character's behavior, what their home life, work environment or school environment would look like because of this trait. The trait that is represented is not your character. It is simply a characteristic of your character. And slapping on a label is no substitute for character building. That's all from my side for now, guys. I barely scratched the surface of this topic, and if you'd like me to do more, please reach out to me in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking the video, leaving a comment, and subscribing. If you do, remember to click the bell icon to get notifications when I upload. A big thank you to Vlad and Mr. C for proofreading and correcting my script, to Marauder for proofreading and input, and Noah for his input on the concept of the video. Do you think I missed anything? What are your thoughts on representation in film? What would you like to see me make a video on next? Until next time, take care.